I'm AJ Fosik, and I'm talking to Société Perrier. A lot of my work tends to deal with the idea of the supernatural and the sort of people's obsession with the idea of belief in the supernatural. And the Call of the Void is sort of a reference to that idea, the idea that there's this need to define our existence through these supernatural myths and traditions. They're meant to represent, I guess, in an abstract way, the idea of the devotion to supernatural deities and sort of the idea that you know, these beautiful things that we look to are all kind of bullshit in a way. That the traditions, you know, I like to think of myself as like a magician who's letting you in on the trick. You know, I guess if like there's a long line of con men in religion, then I'm sort of letting you in on the joke in a way. It has to be seductive. That's the point of the color. You know, you want to lure people in. I don't want to, you know, it's like you catch more flies with honey. Is the idea. The color palette is something that I'm really into. I like the idea of making these like really seductive and powerful sort of color choices along with these images that are, you know, the same. I started working with wood initially. I was doing a lot of street art, and I was like building signs and installing them and putting imagery on the sign, and eventually sort of the imagery and the sign just became one thing, and I just made made the pieces out of wood, and it just transitioned into these. So, and I think that was probably around 6 years ago that I started doing those, that I've been making these. I don't have to run when I put up my work anymore, which is nice, but I sort of miss the idea of, you know, the democracy of putting stuff up in the street. A lot of times, you know, in the gallery, I sort of feel like I'm preaching to the choir, you know. It's like it's sort of the same audience everywhere, and I miss, you know, the exposure to, I guess, a broader array of people. Although at this point, street art seems to have its own built-in audience as well, so I don't know, I miss it, I guess. The pieces in this show, just the sculptures, I tend to work on the sculptures all as like one body of work at a time, so I don't actually know how long like an individual piece takes. I probably spent, I don't know, you know, half a year around that working on all the pieces in this show. Basically from the time of my last show till now.